A Malawian court has rejected Madonna's bid to adopt a second child from the country. The singer was applying for permission to return to America with 3-year-old Mercy James. It thought her application was rejected over residency rules. Well, I'm joined now in central London by Anna Feuchtwang, who's from the charity EveryChild, chief executive of that body. Very good afternoon to you, Anna. Your reaction to the rejection of the court in Malawi?
Well, I think they've made the right decision. What we were really worried about at EveryChild was the speed at which this adoption seemed to be going through. And it's very difficult to do an adoption like this in speed without breaking some rules. And obviously the best interest of the child is what's paramount here.
My understanding is that the reason why Madonna was pursuing this was because charities like yourselves are the ones recommend that when you do have a child of that culture, of that background, then to have a sibling of the same culture is advisory.
Well, I think really the issue is that it's much better to keep children in their families and communities, and that would have been in the interests of her first child, and it's certainly in the interests of this second child. The problem is in countries like Malawi is that there are millions of children that need more support, and most of them could get that support from their own families if the resource was put in place in Malawi. Unfortunately, these very kind of glamorous cases place all the attention in the wrong area, which is about international adoption, when the crisis is actually happening in Malawi, and that's where families need the support.
But do they? Because Madonna is a huge supporter of these orphanages in Malawi. She gives a lot of money to lots of children in Malawi.
Except that I think the word orphanage is often a misnomer. As in this case, and with her first child, these children aren't actually orphans. And in countries like Malawi, particularly now when you've got real pressure on food prices, families often use institutions as sort of respite care because they can't afford to feed their kids, but they actually intend to take them back at some point in the future. And I think there is something also called the Madonna effect, where if you're a poor person and you see someone like Madonna, you might be encouraged to give your child up, whereas actually with not very much resource, you could be encouraged to look after your own child, which is in the end in their best interests.
I mean, in their best interest is an interesting phrase, because, I mean, your charity is called EveryChild. You could look at it from the other perspective and say, every child is important, and if we can give one, even if it is this one, Mercy James, anyone a better life, is that not a good thing?
Well, I'm more interested in how you support the millions of children. Now, obviously, international adoption, Madonna on her own cannot adopt millions of children. So, in the end, that's not the answer. Now, obviously, for a few children, there may be a better life with somebody overseas. But that's why you have things like international conventions. There's something called the Hague Convention, which Malawi, in fact, hasn't signed up to. But that at least tries to put some legislation around these issues, which are very complex. And what that says is that international adoption should be a last resort, not a first resort. And that means that you have considered all other opportunities for each individual child before you make that final decision about them.
Anna Feuchtwang, thank you very much for joining us, the Chief Executive of EveryChild. Thank you. Still to come this afternoon, find